Have you ever been overlooked, underestimated, or told you don't belong? What if the moment you stood tall, unapologetically yourself, was the very moment the world couldn't ignore you anymore? This is the story of how one woman's courage turned rejection into a legacy. Are you ready to be inspired? The moment she stepped out of the Blacktown car, the energy shifted, but not in the way she'd hoped. She adjusted her gown, a deep sapphire blue piece she'd stitched by hand. It shimmered under the floodlights like liquid night. Her natural curls were pinned in soft coils, her lips a bold red. Every detail was intentional. She was ready, but the carpet didn't welcome her. A velvet rope blocked the entrance. Photographers looked past her, lenses clicking for someone behind. One glanced at her, confused, then quickly looked away. She took a breath and approached the check-in stand. "Hi, my name is Amira Cole," she said, offering the cream-colored envelope. "I'm on the list." The woman behind the table barely glanced at her before shaking her head. "This entrance is for celebrities only," she said curtly. "You'll have to move." Amira blinked. I was personally invited by the committee." She turned the envelope over, revealing the gold-embossed seal. But the guard had already stepped forward, hand hovering near his walkie-talkie. "I don't think you understand," the woman added, voice tinged with polite condescension. "This section is for talent. Designers and press go around the side." A pair of influencers in head-to-toe designer walked past, barely giving Amira a glance. One of them snorted under her breath. Bold of her to try it. Amira froze. Her face didn't change, but inside something cracked. She had poured herself into her work for years, working 14-hour days in a Brooklyn loft, designing pieces that whispered to the soul. She had dressed stars who never said her name out loud, and now they wouldn't even let her in. Cameras continued to flash, never in her direction. She stepped back, nearly stumbling on the train of her own gown. Her fingers clutched the invitation tighter, but it might as well have been blank. At that moment, under the blaze of lights and judgmental stares, she felt invisible, like she was trespassing in a world she helped build. But what she didn't know, what no one knew, was that she wasn't alone. Just a few steps away, someone had been watching the whole thing. Someone who knew exactly who she was, and they were about to change everything. To the crowd, she was a nobody. Just another face in a gown, just another black woman trying too hard to fit in. But what they didn't see, what they couldn't possibly know, was that Amira Cole wasn't here for fame. She was here because she earned it. Long before the flashing cameras and velvet ropes, she was threading needles in the back of her grandmother's Harlem apartment, stitching patches onto church robes and prom dresses, dreaming of silk runways and Paris lights. She didn't go to Parsons, couldn't afford FITE, but she built her education from scraps, literally. She dumpster dived for fabric behind closed-down boutiques, learned silhouette theory from library books, practiced pleating on thrift store mannequins, and every stitch she sewed carried her name, Amira, meaning princess in Arabic. Her mother chose it because she wanted her daughter to walk like royalty, even if the world handed her nothing. She worked in shadows, designed custom pieces for stylists who took credit on the red carpet. She saw her gowns on celebrities who didn't know her name, watched her artistry sparkle under spotlights she wasn't allowed to stand in. But she never complained, never posted rants, never called anyone out. Instead, she kept designing, kept evolving. Her Instagram quietly bloomed. Style editors started whispering her name. "Who made that dress? Where'd you find that sculpted shoulder? Oh, that's Amira Cole. She's underground, but real." Until one day her phone rang. It was a quiet voice, calm, familiar, confident. "Hi, this is Robin. Robin Rihanna Fenty." Amira nearly dropped the phone. "I need something for the gala. Not just a dress. A moment. Can you do that?" She did. And now here she was, standing just steps from the carpet she earned her way onto. But the guards couldn't see past her skin, her silence, her lack of entourage. They didn't see the genius in her seams, the legacy in her hands, the revolution in her vision. To them, she was no one. But to Rihanna, She was everything. And in just a few seconds, the world was about to learn that too. She was seconds away from walking away. Her chest felt tight, her fingers numb. That sinking feeling, the one every black woman knows too well, settled into her bones, that maybe, just maybe, she didn't belong. She turned her face from the lights, from the velvet rope, from the eyes silently judging her, and took a single step back. And that's when she felt it. A hand, gently, purposefully, resting on her shoulder. It wasn't forceful. It didn't ask for attention, but it stopped time. Amira turned slowly and came face to face with a presence so iconic, so unapologetically powerful, it made the air around them pause. Rihanna, not her publicist, not her assistant, not someone from her team. Rihanna, herself. Draped in a sculptural masterpiece of black silk and crushed diamonds, she stood there like royalty draped in rebellion, unbothered, unmoved, unmistakable. Their eyes locked. Rihanna didn't need to ask what happened. She'd seen it. From the moment Amira stepped out of the car, she'd been watching the way security sized her up, watching the way the press looked through her, watching the way power tried to push her aside. And Rihanna had had enough of that. "You good?" she asked, her voice low and real. No cameras, no act. Amira opened her mouth, but no words came. Only a nod, small, tight. Like if she spoke, the whole moment might vanish. Rihanna leaned in, voice just above a whisper. "I saw everything, and you're not going anywhere alone tonight." Then without hesitation, without announcement, Rihanna extended her hand, a simple gesture. But in that world, on that carpet, it was a declaration. She wasn't just walking her in, she was lifting her up. Amira hesitated for half a second, not because she was unsure, but because when your dream turns real, your heart has to catch up. She placed her hand in Rihanna's, firm, grounded, and the two of them turned, together, toward the velvet rope. Security stepped aside like Moses parting the Red Sea. The crowd shifted. Cameras rose. This wasn't just fashion anymore. This was history in the making. Rihanna didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Power doesn't yell. It whispers. And when it does, the world leans in. With cameras clattering like hail around them, she leaned close to Amira, her lips barely moving. "I saw what happened," Rihanna murmured, her voice velvet smooth. Then she added slowly, intentionally, "Come with me." It wasn't a question. It was a reckoning. The guard who had just moments ago blocked Amira's path blinked in confusion. He looked from Rihanna to Amira, then back again, like his brain couldn't compute what was unfolding. To him, Amira had been invisible. Now she was arm in arm with the most photographed woman in the world. And the shift was instant, a ripple, one that started at the edge of the carpet and rolled through the crowd like thunder under silk. Rihanna didn't explain. She didn't justify. She simply held Amira's hand and started walking. One slow, deliberate step after another, directly toward the flashing lights that had so recently ignored her. It was the kind of walk that rewrites narratives, that says, she belongs, right here, right now, and no one, not a single person, dared to stop them. As they passed, other guests stared. Some whispered. Some fumbled with their phones. But no one moved to intervene. Because when Rihanna moves, you don't question. You watch. When Rihanna anoints someone, the industry takes notes. Amira, once unsure, now stood taller. Not because Rihanna made her worthy, but because someone finally acknowledged the worth that had always been there. Each step across that carpet was heavier than it looked. It carried every rejection, every backhanded compliment, every, maybe next time, not our aesthetic, not quite the right look. Now, the cameras couldn't stop flashing. The reporters leaned forward, mouths parted, pens ready. But Rihanna wasn't stopping for them. Not yet. She leaned in one last time, just as they reached the center of the carpet, and whispered again, barely audible above the crowd, "Let them wonder who you are." By tomorrow, they'll know your name. And with that, the spotlight found Amira Cole. Not as a shadow behind a star, but as one. It happened slowly at first, then all at once. The cameras that had once looked past her now locked on her like magnets drawn to something electric. Flash, flash, flash. Photographers elbowed each other for a better angle. Reporters craned their necks. Who's that? Is she with Rihanna? Who is she wearing? The irony? She was wearing herself. The gown, the sapphire sculpture hugging her frame, was her own design. No stylist, no showroom pull. Just Amira Cole, her sewing machine, and a vision. She stood in the eye of the storm, hands still linked with Rihanna's. And for the first time all evening, she felt the warmth of the spotlight, not the burn of scrutiny. But even now, with the world staring, she didn't pose. She didn't flash a practiced smile or throw up a peace sign for clout. She just stood, graceful, grounded, glorious. The lights hit her face and caught the shimmer of quiet defiance in her eyes. This wasn't about fame, it was about being seen. The very people who had looked through her 5 minutes ago were now zooming in on every detail. The intricate ruching along her sleeves, the curve of the open back, the deep, dramatic train that rippled like water with every breath of wind. And the internet? Oh, it was catching fire. Tweets poured in like confetti. Wait, who is this girl Rihanna brought? That dress is insane. Couture level. Who designed it? Where's the tag? I need to know now. But Amira wasn't looking at the phones. She wasn't watching the feed refresh. She was remembering. Remembering the years of creating in silence, of being told her look was too bold, her designs too urban, her presence too much. She remembered the slammed doors, the unpaid commissions, the time her name was erased from a show she helped build. And yet, here she was, not because someone handed her an opportunity, but because her talent refused to stay hidden. And now, she didn't have to chase visibility. Visibility had come looking for her. All it took was one act of solidarity, one hand held high, and the world turned to face what it could no longer ignore. By the time they reached the top of the carpeted stairs, something extraordinary had happened. The whispers had become questions. The questions had become a chorus, and the chorus had only one name on its lips. Who is she? Cameras tracked her every step. PR teams scrambled to adjust their talking points. Stylists whispered furiously into earpieces. This wasn't on the run of show. Do we have her bio? Why wasn't she in the lookbook? Because Amira Cole had never needed a lookbook. She was the look. She was the mood board. She was the moment. A Vogue editor leaned forward in her seat near the press risers, eyebrows raised. She's wearing her own design? Flawless tailoring. That's silhouette. Another replied, find out who her team is. Her team, the assistant whispered, checking her phone, is her. Up above, on the rooftop terrace overlooking the carpet, Rihanna's stylist smiled. She's not a +1, she said, sipping champagne. She's the purpose. Down below, Rihanna gave Amira a subtle nod, the kind only two women who've walked through fire recognize. Then she let go of her hand. Amira stood alone now, not because she'd been left, but because she was ready, ready to take up space, ready to own her name, ready to answer the world's question, who is she? A reporter from Essence approached carefully, holding her mic like an offering. Excuse me, she said, her eyes wide with awe. Are you the designer? Amira looked her dead in the eye, calm, collected. Yes, I am. What's your name? She smiled, not out of pride, but peace. Amira Cole. The reporter's smile grew. People are already calling this the dress of the night. Do you have anything to say to young designers watching this? Amira paused. Then she said softly but firmly, you don't need a seat at the table. Build your own. And when it's ready, the world will come sit at yours. That clip would go viral before midnight. But in that moment, the only thing Amira felt was finally seen. Inside the gala, the air shimmered with status. Crystal chandeliers cast fractured rainbows across the marble. Waiters floated by with flutes of champagne. Fashion royalty milled about like living art. Anna, Donatella, Pharrell, Zendaya. Everywhere you looked, exclusivity had a name, a pedigree, and a price tag. But when Amira Cole walked in, the room shifted, heads turned, not because she was loud, but because she was undeniable. Not because she demanded attention, but because her presence refused to be ignored. She didn't need an invite to belong here. She was the reason this space existed in the first place. Because behind every it girl on the carpet, behind every head-turning look that made the fashion blogs swoon, there had always been someone like her, a quiet genius in the background. Black, brilliant, overlooked. But tonight, she wasn't background anymore. She was the frame. She was the story. And for once, the fashion world was ready to listen. Designers approached her, curious. Stylists asked for her card. Editors pulled her aside with soft urgency. "We'd love to profile you, feature your work, invite you to Paris." The very people who'd once ghosted her DMs were now quoting her captions. The same industry that told her she was too edgy, too unknown, too black to front a campaign. Now they were offering contracts, but she wasn't rushing, wasn't begging, wasn't compromising. Amira smiled politely, nodded with grace, and answered each compliment the same way she stitched her gowns, with intention. She wasn't here to prove anything. She was here because she already had. And somewhere across the room, Rihanna watched her, eyes glinting with quiet pride. She didn't need credit, didn't need to make a statement. She'd already made it. Because sometimes the most radical thing you can do for another black woman is simply hold the door open and step aside. Amira Cole didn't crash the Met Gala. She rose to meet it, on her own terms, in her own creation, with her own name stitched into the seams of history. And this time, the world was finally watching. The weeks after the gala were a whirlwind. The world had found Amira Cole. Her inbox overflowed with inquiries from Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and Elle. She'd been invited to showcase her collection at New York Fashion Week. Her Instagram followers had multiplied by the thousands. Each comment, each like, a silent acknowledgement of the power in her artistry. But the most powerful transformation? It was in the way she looked at her work now. Before, it was just survival, just creating to be seen, to prove something to an industry that had long refused to see her. Now it was a statement, a legacy. Each stitch she sewed was a thread in the tapestry of something bigger. Her designs weren't just about fashion. They were about defiance, about rewriting a history that had so often left her out. Her story became the story of every designer who had ever been dismissed for being too much. Her designs were more than fabric. They were symbols, symbols of resilience, beauty, and the truth that talent cannot stay hidden forever. Amira stood at the front of her first runway show, surrounded by models wearing her creations. The lights dimmed, the music swelled, and for the first time in her life, Amira didn't need to look back. Her future was unfolding in front of her, one perfect, seamless look at a time. As she took her bow, the applause wasn't just for her. It was for every dreamer who had ever fought to be heard. For every black woman who had ever been told her place wasn't at the table. For every artist who had been overlooked, dismissed, and ignored. She didn't just rise, she rebuilt the table. And as she stood there, amidst the clapping, the flashing cameras, and the cheers of her peers, she knew something fundamental had changed. Her name wasn't just on a label. It was on the lips of every fashion critic, every influencer, and every person who believed in the power of creativity to reshape the world. Amira Cole had come to the Met Gala as a question. Now she was the answer. Her legacy was not just in the designs she made, but in the way she showed the world how to truly see. And the world, it would never be the same again. Amira Cole didn't just break barriers, she shattered them. From being overlooked to standing at the forefront of fashion history, her journey shows us all that no dream is too big, no voice too quiet. When you stand firm in your truth, the world will find you, and they'll never forget your name.